Good morning. I'm Mark, and I have met a couple of you, I think, but I've been looking after marketing and comms for the company since last spring. And I'm really sorry not to be able to be with you in person or in real time today, but I'm a part time swimming teacher, and so it's with genuine regret that I am uh, able to tell you that as you listen to this, I am up to my earlobes in chlorine and 3-year-old children, which is a typical Saturday for me. So believe me when I say I would far rather be there with you. However, so Shobana asked me just to obviously give you a few uh, thoughts or share a few thoughts of things I've been ruminating on since the Arts Council cut. And it's a big conversation. There's lots of areas we could talk about, but I just thought I would simply run through a few of the things that I've been kind of particularly mulling over, ruminating on, and some thoughts for not necessarily action, although in some cases, but more specifically for discussion. So the first thing I was thinking about, and excuse me, I'm just referring to a few notes I have made, um, was what does it mean to our audience? And so the Arts Council cut and news of same to our audience. Well, in all truth and honesty, my experience of working with a variety of dance and theatre and other arts organisations across the years, many of them and the majority of them don't care um, or don't know. Um, Often, as we know, patrons, it's very important to us, and we are so subjective um, that it's easy for us to think that everybody kind of understands, thinks about, considers the nitty gritty as much as we do. And of course, they don't. They just consider and think about and reflect upon the work that is presented to them and put before them on stage. So, does the Arts Council cut affect our audience? I would argue that probably very little. There will be within our audience a kind of, the financially astute or the philanthropic type who will take an active interest in how an arts organisation that they choose to support or engage with are funded. But largely and on the whole, I would say that it doesn't mean a thing to the audience. The impact obviously would be if we vanished without trace, if they are supporters of our work. But clearly that is not in our planning. Um, so I think in terms of the immediate impact upon our audience, I would say minimal. Um, I would add to that I think, and this is something that Kate and I have started discussing, is that we should perhaps start looking at or considering what our messaging is around the cut, because we've been quite gung ho since the announcement was made. I mean, obviously, we've communicated and expressed some sadness that the relationship or the ongoing relationship with the Arts Council has reached its end. But we've been very keen to and successful, I think, at pushing the message that, but we are survivors and we will continue. And actually, that funding was only a part of what makes us financially tick, and therefore, watch this space. We'll be back, or in fact, we're not going anywhere. Which, of course, we know to be true to a certain extent. But we are thinking and talking about perhaps it's time for a more nuanced approach in terms of messaging that, whilst that is true to an extent, the continued success and ongoing kind of nature of us being able to operate will only and can only happen with help. And so thinking about that messaging and how that messaging might look, um, in order that we communicate the fact that we're fine for now, but we want to be here for the long haul, and that will require some help. And so some call to action being kind of implicit within how we are messaging to our supporters, as well as obviously to our existing donors and patrons. So there's that, which I'm sure Kate will probably speak about more to you. In terms of kind of the work we do and the impact that the funding may or may not have from our audience's perspective, unlike I've worked with a number of arts organisations who have been subsidised by the Arts Council and funded very much to kind of tour quite regularly to perhaps twice, 3 times a year, very much to the same venues and theatres, developing ongoing relationships and audiences within those regions. We perhaps are a little bit more unpredictable than that. In fact, significantly unpredictable, which I think will serve us well here, because I don't think it's not like some other companies I can think of who would, because of this Arts Council cut, just vanish from that touring circuit, perhaps, or for some time, or be far less regularly seen on that touring circuit. We are kind of known and, in fact, applauded for our kind of diverse range of activities. So, the fact that we may pop up with something site-specific, or a film, or a live dance piece, or a kind of installation, I think is actually to our credit, because that has been how we've been viewed. And I think the future looks as if, from what I understand, that the kind of ambition is to continue in that vein, rather than kind of, and expand the kind of unpredictability and the kind of, with a perhaps less commitment to a funding body, to have the kind of to be light of foot and leaner, to be able to, in fact, respond to opportunities in a way that perhaps we couldn't before. So I think from the audience's perspective, I think my feeling is that the what they get from the company is probably what they're used to getting, and will be, plus. So perhaps some smaller scale work, perhaps some affordable, work in smaller spaces, and perhaps more site specific, or perhaps some more film based work. So it will come with challenges, but it feels quite positive from a kind of marketing perspective, and in terms of communicating that to an audience. It doesn't feel like we are about to go out, or have been going out with a tale of woe. It feels like there's actually quite a rich kind of body of work that is potentially lying ahead, and clearly that's exciting to be able to communicate that to our audiences. So I was thinking about, what does it mean for our... Oh, and one other thing just on that is the fact that, because of the slightly sporadic nature of our touring, so we haven't been regularly visiting the same kind of network of venues on a kind of, bi-annual basis or whatever. So those commitments to and to those regional audiences they're probably not there. They're not there in perhaps the way that they are with other organisations who do regularly tour and visit to those venues. However, we do regularly, I think it's true to say, appear in London, and our work would normally feature in London, and that's where London and the Southeast is where our kind of core audiences and kind of more the kind of loyalty and brand recognition resides. My understanding too is that what we do in the future will include London and the Southeast, probably perhaps work beginning in London and then being exploited elsewhere. I think that therefore that audience we can probably rely on being able to retain and develop, and so there's that. I've had a couple of interesting conversations, sort of off record ish, with venues about the company. So I've been talking to marketing departments about, what they see it meaning to us and to to them potentially receiving our work. And the response was, "What about the back catalogue? Why don't you revive some of the work?" There's a new venue opening up within the Brighton Dome at the Corn Exchange. It's a 500-seat theatre. The director of marketing immediately said to me this week, in fact, "Well, we would love to have Chopin back. Middle scale dance is not something we've had since certainly pre-COVID. We're programming from September onwards. We'd love one of the revivals. Please bear us in mind." So I think there's an appetite out there for for us to exploit, monetize some of those those works, particularly the ones that Chopin has an artistic will to revisit. So what does it mean for our branding? And I think one thing which occurs to me is, and this is sort of through some bitter and some positive experience in the past working with other companies, is if we are to enter into a world in which we are forming co-productions and partnerships and collaborations with other organisations, so be that a producing venue or another performing arts company, I think it's really important that our branding and our positioning within that is protected, because I have had experiences at both ends of the kind of success spectrum, where the Royal Court may grab the work but sort of want to claim it. I'm plucking them as an example out of the air. I'm not saying that actually happened with the Royal Court, but you get the point, I'm sure. Whoever we are working with, if the nature of our work in the future does rely upon working with partner organisations, that we feature highly and prominently within it. So I think that's something for us to think about in terms of the marketing kind of function within the organisation. I think the fact that, and within that, obviously, is not just kind of, we're not clearly talking about just the logo. We're talking about the artistic aesthetic, that it's communicated in a way that is authentic and true to Chopin's voice and how we want to be represented, and the tone of voice that we either want to adopt or have already established as being appropriate to the way that we communicate and want to communicate to our audiences, existing and potential. So, so there's sort of brand policing, as it were. I think, other things I was thinking about is it's really important that we, so without the Arts Council subsidy, is there greater emphasis for us to be really getting bang for our buck from our marketing spend? Yes. But were we doing that anyway? Yes. Because, of course, whatever our marketing budget was, for previous work. We were always trying to maximize its impact. So, sort of no change there then. Um, do we want to reach a bigger, broader audience? Yes, but 'twas ever thus. That's always been the aim. Um, do we want to reach a wider, broader audience and have a mind to hopefully attracting a demographic containing people basically who are loaded, who potentially may be supporters, patrons, and people that we can go after for some hard cash? Yes, again, 'twas ever thus, but clearly now higher on the priority list. Um, Added to that, should we be, and the answer is probably yes, interrogating our data a little bit more rigorously to identify those people, so that between myself and obviously Kate's department, we can be following up, nurturing and fostering those relationships with those people who we think could actually, who have shown loyalty, who have the disposable means to actually give us some financial support. One thing, and I haven't got very much more to say. Please don't panic. I think there's a broader context which is about um, the arts industry generally and its financial position as we sort of approach what looks like it will, for certain, according to depending upon who you believe or read, into a recession. And obviously, we're not the only organisation to have had a financial cut, and venues too are struggling. So the impact upon the deals that we may achieve, so where we may have been successful in attracting and securing really healthy guarantees and fees for our performances in the past, may not be as reliable, which means we may be in a situation where our deals are working on a more commercial basis, and therefore I see that we may well need to be protecting our ticket yield in a way that perhaps we haven't traditionally. We've been quite generous with discounting in the past. Our sort of emphasis has been, of course, trying to maximise box office income, but really focused upon bums on seats and getting people in to the theatre to see the work. So we have discounted. I mean, I'm just even based upon, the activity that we did around Clorinda. There was in some particular venues, we were subsidising those tickets quite heavily, because there was some price resistance, but also because we wanted to reach particular groups of people who just were not likely to be paying kind of top price or able to. So there's some thinking around how we protect that. Those we will always discount to attract certain groups and demographics, but I think we may need, probably will need, to be more rigorous and vigilant in terms of, and a bit tighter, a bit less generous than perhaps we've been in the past in terms of discounting and looking at that ticket yield to make sure that if we are more financially exposed because of the type of deal that we are on at any given venue, that we're kind of protecting our potential income. So that feels quite important. I think occurs to me that maybe the marketing function within the organisation work more closely with the development department and look at opportunities for perhaps in-kind support and sponsorship. I'm thinking about media partnerships and the like. So that feels like an opportunity, something to be exploited going forward. And then um, finally, the marketing resources, the marketing department. So currently you have me 3 days a week, and then that contract increased during Clorinda to accommodate working purely on obviously the tour dates and supporting and promoting those. So I've been sort of reflecting upon what I think the company might need, given what we know about the programme of work for the coming year. And I suppose my feeling, and this at the risk of doing myself out of a job which I really enjoy and have really enjoyed doing since last spring, um, I would recommend a shrink and grow model where you have me or a version of me uh, on a very part time, on a retainer basis, so that things you have a consistency, that the tone of voice, so that the branding within any of these relationships which you talked about may be being developed, be it with a film production company for Clorinda, be it with a site specific piece that's happening in Sadler's Wells, or in Somerset House, wherever, that actually there is somebody who is ensuring that that branding and that the consistency of the kind of graphic representation, tone of voice, messaging is safe, because a lot of work and thought has gone into that over the years, and that would be a real shame to lose that. Don't say it has to be me. I did say a version of me, if not me. Added to me, or the version of me, we have Jessie, who is our social media and digital manager, who is actually a bit of a gem in our crown, and I would suggest trying to find a way of retaining her again on a shrink and grow basis. So if the company gets busier, my involvement would increase, or we bring in another freelancer to look after a particular project, be it a tour or whatever the work is. Jessie is our digital manager, who also is freelance. She, again, could shrink and grow according to need and demand, but it's the work she's doing in terms of keeping our social media channels alive and engaging, even in a lean time of no kind of visible, tangible work, feels really important work to continue. So, a shrink and grow approach. I think our PR function needs looking at. I think we may be looking at a model where we have either a number of different PR consultants who we work with on a project by project basis. So, be it film, we clearly need to, if we're looking at, say, Clorinda, we clearly need to be working with an organisation, a PR agency perhaps, who are experienced in film, who can also reach out to news outlets, because there is kind of, it's topical, it's political, there are news angles here. I think we have in the past, we work with a really, really strong dance PR team, but I think they work in quite a niche market, a media outlet market, and I think there is scope for us to look at either supplementing the work they do with additional PR expertise, or, which I have to say is my thinking at the moment, looking at a small, and I say small, agency, PR agency, because I think we could get very lost within a large one. A small, lean, hungry PR team that has within it PR expertise for not just performing arts, but film, and with a kind of an approach which takes a broader view in terms of looking at, are there stories to be exploited within any element or stream of the work that we're presenting, which may take us onto the Today programme, or the sofa with Richard and Judy, who I don't think present This Morning any longer, but that's just dating me. Those are my thoughts on PR. I think I'm not saying let's throw out, the baby and the bathwater, but I think the baby and the bathwater need to be given a bit of a checkup. So those are my thoughts, really. Audience I don't think the impact is huge. I think there's an impact upon how we protect the branding in terms of especially how we are represented and have a strong place at the table when co-producing and collaborating with other partners, particularly partners who may be larger than us and have a lot of clout and a high profile. I think the marketing resource in terms of the staffing and the team needs to be revisited, and a shrink and grow approach feels to me like the way to go. Um, and similarly, the PR function feels like something which needs, I think, actually was due for a timely review. So this Arts Council, obviously, funding decision has just sort of perhaps propelled us a little bit closer and deeper into those conversations. I think I've been speaking for 26 minutes, which is almost the length of one of my swimming lessons. So I apologise for rambling. I hope it was useful. I'm always available, except when I'm not, i.e., in water on a Saturday, for questions. I'd love to talk to any of you about all of this or more at any point. And thanks for your time. And I hope today proves useful for all of you. And I wish you a happy weekend, what's left of it, by the time you finish this session. Okay, bye then.